Entitled Parent Ruins Christmas by Stealing My Son's Nintendo Switch, by user Bygzanigza. It's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, but for me and my family, it was ruined by my brother's wife, M, 34. My wife and I have always had a strained relationship with M due to her tendency to be controlling and demanding, not just with us but with our entire family. It has caused a lot of tension and discomfort in the past. We had a family Christmas gathering, where we organized a gift exchange for the kids. My 7-year-old son was over the moon when he received a brand new Nintendo Switch as his gift. He was so excited to play it, but M saw the gift and immediately decided that her child, EK an 8-year-old, deserved the console more than my son, stating that she couldn't afford to buy such an expensive gift for EK during the holiday season. M proceeded to try and take the Nintendo Switch away from my son, right in front of the Christmas tree, even though it was clearly labeled with my son's name. She was insisting and causing a scene, accusing me of being a bad parent, and because she wasn't able to afford to buy such a nice gift for her son, we should give him one instead. Despite the attempts of other family members to reason with her and make her understand that her actions were wrong, she refused to listen and kept trying to take the gift away from my son. My son began crying and screaming, but she didn't care. This all happened in about the space of 2 minutes before M stormed off screaming about how everyone hates her and she is better off without us. It was a terrible experience, watching my son's excitement turn into disappointment and tears. The entitled behavior of M not only ruined the gift opening moment but also the entire Christmas gathering for all of us. Family members expressed their disappointment and disapproval of her actions, but she didn't care and it seemed like all that mattered to her was getting what she wanted, no matter the cost. Her actions only served to further damage the already strained relationship between her and our family, proving that her selfish behavior knows no bounds and that she can't even keep her entitlement in check during the holiday season. Our entire family has completely severed ties with her since Christmas, and despite her trying to reach out to apologize, I can't justify having her as a part of our life anymore. Our relationship was never great to begin with, and to me, this was the final straw. My son will always remember this Christmas as the one where his aunt tried to steal his gift. My entitled mom is upset because I don't like when she steals from me, by user Throwaway Blue Squid. I hope I posted this in the right place. Anyway, I am F14 and I'll be 15 next month. My parents are separated and I live with my mom, brother, and older sister. For a little background, last year for my birthday I got around $300 from my mom's side of the family and $100 from my dad. All of this money was given to my mom as I don't have any debit cards, Cash App, or stuff like that because my mom thinks I'm too young to manage money. I planned on buying a pair of shoes and a hairdryer I've been wanting, so I was very excited about it. I asked my mom for the money and she kept telling me to be patient and that she'll give it to me, but after 2 weeks she claimed she'd lost access to it. I felt very irritated at first, but after almost a whole year, that was last February, I eventually got over it. Last month, a little bit before Christmas break, she told me that my dad had sent myself and my siblings money while we were driving home from a school. I asked her how much he sent and she refused to tell me because she wasn't going there with me, referencing to previous times she's stolen money our paternal grandparents gave my siblings and I. So I just called my dad and asked him, and he told me he gave all 3 of us $500 each. My siblings and I never actually got the money because she spent all of it, and she revealed that she'd the birthday L spent that too. She didn't even use it to get us a gift or anything, just $1,500 for her fucking self. When we got upset about it, she played victim and made us all go to our grandparents' house because we were affecting her mental health by being selfish and bullying her. I feel really angry and upset every time I think about it because every time I ask for things like clothes or new shoes, I've been wearing the same pair for almost a year, she blows up because she can't afford it, yet when I actually have money she just takes it all, leaving nothing for me. It's like she doesn't want me to have nice things, and that saddens me. My siblings and I are still here at our grandparents'. I just wanted to get this off my chest / put my feelings into words. My mother poisoned a dog and then took my phone away for protesting, by user LazarBeam_fan77. So, this happened a few years back, when I was 14. Our entire family was going on a holiday trip, by car. On the way there, next to the highway, there was a stray dog. My mom decided that she wanted to feed him. But, the only problem was that we only had chocolate cookies and a chocolate tablet as food for the trip. Me and my sister tried to keep her from getting to the food, but she dug her nails into my skin and snatched the cookies. While she was doing that, we were screaming, "Don't feed the dog chocolate, it's going to make him sick," and she just kept insisting that stray dogs eat everything and are super resilient, and that chocolate is only bad for house dogs. She finally fed the cookies to the dog, then the tablet. She then proceeded to take away our phones for being angry at her. We started crying, while our mom just laughed at us. On the entire ride to the destination, she played children's songs about dogs, just to taunt us. She still insists that she was right, and that we didn't want to give the cookies because we were greedy and didn't want to share. Edit: a lot of people wrote in the comments that dogs don't always die from chocolate. I know that, having looked it up after the incident, and that's why I avoided the use of killed. This still doesn't excuse her actions. If your kids can't behave, they don't belong in a movie theater, by user the worst smell ever. Some parents really insist that kids will be kids and can't be disciplined at all, and it is not true. They are just lazy parents. Or selfish. In the off chance you do have a child with behavioral issues beyond your control, then you have to make some personal sacrifices. It's not everyone else's problem. If you know your kid can't sit quietly through a movie, then why take them to a movie theater? I went to see a kids movie recently and fully expected some level of craziness. It wasn't like for little kids or anything, but it was an animated film. I know that kids will make some kind of noise. However, I was sat by a family that was acting like they were in their own living room the entire film. Kids running all over the place, standing on chairs, invading people's space, talking, yelling, singing, screaming, etc. And the parents did nothing. No shushing, no reprimanding. Just ignored them and watched the movie. So happy for them that they deal with that bullshit enough at home to be desensitized, but I am happily child-free and didn't pay $12 a ticket and $16 for snacks to have a horrible experience and a migraine by the end of it. The kids were old enough to know better if they had been taught better, but I'm assuming they weren't. The theater was full of kids who were behaving themselves and weren't ruining the experience for everybody else. When there are children in a theater acting that way, it doesn't just fuck it up for the adults, it's also distracting for all the children who are actually behaving. I don't buy this excuse that kids will just be kids and that there is nothing parents can do about it. At the very least, you can choose to keep your kids at home if they don't know how to act in public. I feel like some parents behave this way because they believe that no one is going to say anything. What was I supposed to do? Interrupt the movie and bother people around us by confronting them in the moment, or missed parts of the movie myself by going and getting a manager and pulling a Karen? They do this shit counting on the fact that most people will say nothing. Or think that everyone else around them has the same ideology that kids will be kids and that because they are children no one should be bothered. Flat out entitlement. Not my fault you fucked raw. Edit: okay, I'm not checking the updates on this anymore. Some of y'all taking it a bit too far, acting like you have some personal stake in the matter. I chose the least confrontational route possible and just wanted to bitch online and then move on. I have no clue why any of you care whether or not I complained to the staff and got it fixed in the moment. I did not want to be in a confrontational situation at the time, and I don't have to explain myself, but feel free to read my comments on the thread for clarification. Thanks. Besides that, thanks to everyone else who shared their experiences and gave advice. It's been really helpful. I feel like I can handle the situation better next time. My abusive father wants to meet his grandchild, by user ShadowArtist161. I haven't seen my father since I was 11. I'm now 24 years old and 38 weeks pregnant, and I've been hiding that info from my abusive, manipulative father. He had no idea, but today, he found out and sent me a bunch of messages through FB about wanting to meet his grandchild. I only had him unblocked because I was hoping to get enough info to get him put in jail or at least take him to court. At first, he thought that I was just being hush about the whole thing, so his first message was normal. He asked why I didn't tell him and that he was excited to meet his grandchild. Mind you, he lives very far from me and has no money to be traveling anywhere. So I told him that he wasn't going to meet his grandchild and that I purposely kept this info from him. This man had made my life hell while he was around, and even when he left, he gave my mom something like $20 a month for 3 kids in child support. He physically and mentally abused my siblings and I when we were kids, yet argues that he never did anything and that my mom brainwashed us against him. In terms of emotional abuse, he never paid any attention to us. Never showed up to events he said he would, and when he miraculously got a GF, he started leaving us alone with her on his weekends just so that he could work. When he was around, we either had to do what he wanted or he was sleeping. Yet if my mom tried to make plans that happened to fall on his weekend, then he would argue to hell and back about it being his weekend and wanting to spend time with us. Now, in terms of physical abuse, he did a lot of this in the name of punishment for a wrongdoing. If someone wants to physically punish their kids, that's on them. But he took his discipline way too far. If he caught me sucking my thumb as a child, he would hit me with the buckle part of the belt. Or smack me hard enough across the face that I would fall to the floor. I broke a dish once, and he slammed my head against the table. When I broke something else, he picked up the glass shard and stabbed me in the leg with it. He would punch my brother so hard in the stomach that it would make him sick. My mom wasn't spared either while they were married. She finally got away when I was 5. But she didn't know about his abuse towards us because he never did it in front of her, and we were too scared to tell her. But he choked her, punched her, etc. He got married to his GF when I was 10 and a year later moved out of state with her. My siblings and I tried to warn the poor woman, but she had my father in her ear telling her that my mom was just jealous and that my siblings and I just didn't want him to be married to anybody but our mom. A year or so later, she was back in our state and had divorced him. She contacted us once to see us in person. My mom and I were the only ones that went. After a year, she looked so broken and was different from the lady I knew. He had started being terrible to her shortly after their move. When he ended up choking her too, she quickly got away from him. She apologized to my mom profusely for not listening to her warnings. So this same man, when I know for a fact he hasn't changed, thinks that he would get to meet and be around my child. As soon as I said he wasn't going to meet his grandchild, he blew up. I started getting messages about how he's going to take me to court for grandparent rights and that I have no right to keep him from his grandchild. Stating that he helped bring me into this world and that if it wasn't for him, this child wouldn't exist either. I told him if he had the money to take me to court for a case that would be laughed at and thrown out, then I'm going to take him to court for the backlog of child support he owes. That shut him up on that line of argument. So then comes the Bible ranting and telling me I'm going to hell. Because my sperm donor is not only abusive but also the type of Bible-thumping Christian who only uses the Bible for their own agenda. So I blocked him. He's never had my phone number, my email, or my address, so he now has absolutely no way to reach out to me. Sadly though, my mom lives in the same house she started living in after she left him, and he knows that. So I am a bit worried that if he pulls together the money to get here, then he's going to harass my mom. But she can handle herself now and would just call the police. I don't know how to end this, but thanks for reading my long, heavy story about my Edit, holy moly. I took a nap, because pregnancy, only to wake up to a whole lot more likes in just a couple of hours. Well, thanks, everyone, for reading this mess. And, because of some comments, I'll tell you a bit more about what's going on. My sperm donor is broke and a coward. While he may be violent and willing to harass women, he's scared of men. Hell, he's even terrified of my tiny 87-year-old grandma, his ex-mother-in-law. She's the reason why he never did anything to my mom after their divorce. Luckily, she's still alive and well, and my mom lives with her to help around the house. I may not like my grandma much all the time, but I trust her to keep my mom safe. It does help that my mom is no longer scared of my sperm donor and will stick up for herself now. As for myself, I'm not sure. Being far away from him, I might be all tough, but if he shows up to my door, I don't know what I'll do. I do know that my husband is 100% willing to shoot him. I also know that my sperm donor will tuck tail and flee if he comes face to face with him, though, because, as stated above, he's a coward when it comes to men. It also helps that my husband is taller and has a good 50 to 60 pounds on him. Now, onto the legal side. He absolutely does not have the money to try anything there. As for GP rights, as soon as they read that he hasn't even seen me, his own daughter, in 13 years, they will shut that case. I'm not worried, but I do have documentation. My mom still has all the documentation from her own case when they were going through their divorce. I don't have much for what he did to my siblings and I, but I do have documentation from the few teachers who met him. Along with a statement from a security guard from the school who almost had to toss him out a couple of times. Then there's the statements from the nurses at the school. I might not have told them where the injuries actually came from, but after talking to them years later, I learned that they had their suspicions. Especially when they stopped after my father left. So thank you for all the advice I've been given, but I know I'm safe. I've got neighbors who know what to look out for, and I'm never really alone right now. And while I might panic the entire time if he shows up, I'd like to believe I'd hit him with the gun we have.